Hi, this is Tim of the 1916 Company. Welcome and thanks for logging on. If you love this watch, email us Team Mosso at the 1916company.com for purchase, pricing, and availability questions regarding this watch. Today we are discussing the Bethune DB8, that is DB and the word 8 spelled out. That distinguishes it from the original DB8, the letters DB and the numeral 8. The difference, the original came out in 2003. This model, 42 millimeters in diameter in grade 5 titanium, came out as an homage to the original in 2023. So let's talk our way through a watch built in the image of the very first Bethune watches, which is for many collectors of the brand, the era that they prefer. So in grade 5 titanium, which is lighter than steel, hypoallergenic, but also more scratch resistant than steel. We have 42.4 millimeter diameter, 10.7 millimeter thickness, and from lug tip to lug tip, 45.6 millimeters with a 22 millimeter spacing between the lugs. Being almost entirely sapphire and titanium, it's a very light watch, but also a very thin one. At 10.7 millimeters, it'll slip underneath any kind of a dress cuff. It is surprisingly short across the wrist at only 45.6 millimeters, which means the lugs are nowhere near the edge of my 16 centimeter circumference wrist, and I could recommend it for wrists as small as 14 centimeters circumference. The timepiece features a strap that is large rectangular scale alligator leather on top, semi-gloss, dark blue with a monotone stitch, a sheer cut and lacquered side, and then on the bottom, small round scale alligator as gator on both sides makes for a longer lasting strap that costs a few $100s more but is worth it because a watch like this deserves the best. So gator on top and bottom, a brand new uncrimped, ungouged Bethune factory strap. We have a buckle here also in grade 5 titanium. At Bethune, buckles tend to correspond to the design of the case. So if you have a conventional lug set, as we do here, you're going to have a conventional buckle. Now these lugs with their ogival or torpedo tip ends are famous among Bethune collectors as one of the few continuous style signatures that stretch from the original DB1 chronograph of 2002 to the present collection. And aside from some of the early DB20s, just about every Bethune watch has some form of these ogival tips. You can also see that the case is fully polished. This is a trade of grade 5 titanium. It polishes up a lot better than grade 2. Unbranded crown with faceting and double knurling. This is a signature of Bethune, as Denis Flageolet, the co-founder and watchmaking lead, loves to pay homage to history. Historically, crowns would not have been branded. Now you can see the lugs are slightly stepped out of the case band. They're not fully integrated Calatrava style or Portugueser style. They've got a little bit of a step, which I like. It adds some distinction and articulation to the case flank. Domed bezel. And then we have a slightly domed sapphire over a silver dial. By the way, Bethune making its own dials, cases, and movements. It is a fully integrated manufacturer. You can see we've got a little bit of perhaps an écaille de poisson or fish scale for the sub-register. While the original would have featured a 45-minute counter for its chronograph, this one features a 60-minute counter. And of course, the original also featured leaf hands, vertically arrayed Arabic numerals, and a rosette-style guilloched at center. We have a dental-style outboard. We have the rosette. We have the écaille de poisson. We have hands that are fired blue, that is oxidized blue with heat. And then we have a scale outboard against which you can read minutes, seconds, fractions of seconds. And then we have these little bracketed numerals with triangular indices outboard every 5 seconds or 5 minutes. You can also see the company is rather discreet about its branding. Bethune vaulted across the top. I love it. Now the watch does feature instantaneous jumping minutes, which you just saw right there, and mono pusher action. So you stop, you reset, you restart. The pusher for the mono pusher is coaxial with the crown. Turn it all over. Now you can see this is a new movement. The original used a THA caliber developed by F.P. Journe and Denis Flageolet back when they were partners at a white label movement manufacturer called THA that built calibers for other brands. And that famous mono pusher column wheel oscillating pinion chrono was celebrated, though used in only a few models. It's best remembered for its use in the Cartier Tortue monopoussoir, and it was actually used by Denis, his own movement, albeit not a Bethune manufacturer caliber. It was used in the original DB1 and DB DB8. So you can see this watch right here is an homage to that movement, but it is an original construction. It's larger at 30 millimeters in diameter, and it has a longer power reserve at 60 hours versus 40 for the original. It still uses a combination of a column wheel, which you can see has been miniaturized, but it also has that wonderfully crisp traditional column wheel feel. And then the oscillating pinion clutch of the original here returns. It's a form of lateral clutch that has the beauty of a lateral clutch, but the largely seamless engagement of a vertical clutch. And so with an oscillating pinion, what happens is if you press and hold the trigger to start, there's just about no extraneous motion. So like a vertical clutch, it jumps into action without leaping forward. So it's a very precise type of lateral clutch. Here we've got a handsome movement with all polished steel components that have also been intricately mirror beveled on their sides. A lot of watches will give you polished screws, maybe a black polished swan's neck regulator. At de Bethune, the entire movement, or at least all of the bridges and chronograph components, have been mirror finished. Underneath that, there's media blast, polished screw heads. You can also see satination on the wheels, as well as the oscillating pinion clutch, some of the levers and horns of the chronograph clutch mechanism. And then we have the patented 2016 balance, which is the latest at de Bethune. It is a blued titanium wheel with white gold masses. The idea here is to minimize the effects of aerodynamic drag on the balance, reduce the impact of temperature change on timing, and maximize the percentage of total mass that is in the rim of the balance. This is patented. So is the hairspring, which is cut in half, and then it is shaped by hand and micro-clamped back together. This is a patented curve at de Bethune. And so what it does is it actually allows the hairspring to beat with isochronous action and perfectly distributed mass in any position. So it's flat and thin like a flat hairspring, but it breathes like an overcoil. All of this at 4 Hertz, an unusual beat rate for de Bethune. In some applications, such as the historic pieces, it was rarely a 4 Hertz movement. Here we do have 4 Hertz operation. And then you can see that there is a satin-finished movement spacer outboard, as well as solarization on the cover of the barrel. So a beautifully decorated movement, protected by multiple patents and an original de Bethune execution. That black polish by itself is worth the price of admission. And of course, all of this is 30 meters water resistant. So if you like the style of the original de Bethune timepieces, this column wheel mono pusher titanium 31 jewel marvel is ready to go. Reach out to Team Mosso at the 1916company.com for purchase and pricing details.